Are you about to school? Are you about to school me vernacular? Where is that coming? Where are you from?
Hawaii, Big Island.
Come on,
Oh, straight up, yeah.
Big
Yeah,
Island for real? What
I
side?
moved the Hilo side, rainy side.
Oh
So
my, I didn't
Hilo,
know that.
Hilo is the rainiest city in America. And then I moved to Seattle. I'm ready for the desert.
You're ready for the desert.
Dude, there's so much rain in my life. I just
Tell us about that. You're over the rain, huh?
over the rain, over the rain. But
Gotcha.
does this shot look good? I mean, this is all I got as far as
Yeah, you're perfectly fine, man.
bedroom and
Perfectly
stuff.
fine. Troy Ritchie, welcome to the MindShift podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, but I'm
Good to see you.
intimidated by your voice.
Hey, man, your microphone actually got a lot better when you pulled it when you just did that.
When I got closer,
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah. Oh
I get
yeah,
this
that's
silky
is that
smooth.
is that a blue Yeti?
It is a blue, yeah.
Yeah, so they actually I'm gonna go ahead and say it. You have to
Yeah.
like be damn near kissing this damn thing.
Well, I have experienced that because I used to be a musician, well,
Okay.
entertainer, and
Yeah.
some concerts at the end, the mic would have blood on it because I was
Uh
so into it, just kind of like, attack
that's
the mic.
interesting. That's
Yes, yeah,
interesting, man. Well,
lots of
listen,
fun.
let's tell everybody about yourself, man. Where are you from? Tell us about you. Who's Troy Ritchie?
Who's Troy? Well, from the Big Island of Hawaii. I was raised a skinny, white. I'm considered white over there. Poor son of a preacher.
Mm.
So I know bullies really well. On the big on the Big Island, they like to fight, and I learned quickly. I've never been in a fight, fist fight. I learned quickly how to talk my way out of several opportunities to get my head pummeled.
so, so hence your journey in sales, maybe, huh?
That's right. BJ
Yeah.
Penn. Are you familiar with BJ Penn?
I'm familiar with the name, big time
Yeah.
MMA, right?
Yeah, he went to my school. So he was
Okay.
elementary. We were a small private school. He was in the elementary when we were in high school. So I don't think we pick on him now, but back
Oh
then,
boy, yeah. You don't want to go down that path anymore. Yeah,
no, no, not at
yeah.
all.
Might want to leave that one alone. So,
Yeah.
so that's good stuff, man. So, um, you and I had a chance to meet. What is it? It's coming up on 2 years, I think, sometime later this summer. About a year and a half, 18 months, 20 months,
Sep-
something like that.
September, Brett McFall.
Yeah, we met with Brett's event, live event, and
That's right.
so it was good, man. We went and had a little. What did we go eat that day?
In and
We
out.
In-N-Out Burger,
That's right.
of all places. But we were down right there, a couple
Yeah.
buildings down from where that was. Right,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's
good
great.
stuff. Great meeting
Brett's
you, man.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
glad we've been friends for a while.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So you are first. You're a dynamic dude, man. Let me just state for the record. Uh, the 4 a.m. podcasts.
Yes.
How many of those suckers have you done now?
Oh,
Ballpark.
this year, season 3, we're at 85 episodes today.
Yeah,
85
but you
episodes. Yeah.
started this thing. 4 a.m. podcast was going back then, right? So 18 months of roughly or shortly
Uh,
thereafter.
November of 2018. Yes.
Yeah, man, you're a baller, man. Listen, 4 a.m. every day show. Is that 7 days a week?
5 days a week, and it's not recorded at 4 a.m. I wake up at 4 a.m.
No. I didn't think you were you recording it at 4, but you wake up at 4. That's the kind of premise.
Yes.
Tell us about the premise of the show, actually.
It's a premise for a show. It's a premise for the book. 4 a.m.ers, really the only drive to wake up at 4 a.m. is literally to beat the competition.
Mm.
That is it. And I don't have a lot of talents in that I stand out. I'm not the best looking. I'm not the tallest, the
Hey, stop, man.
fastest.
So why are
Uh,
you doing all this self-deprecating stuff?
well,
You are an absolute lie.
well, because that's my advantage is doing things like the 4 a.m. wake up.
The hustle.
Yeah, that is it. People will say, I love your energy, and I'm on an off day. So that's my gifting. That's my talent is
Yeah.
inspiring people, right? And just like,
Yeah.
it's funny. Growing up, Darrell, I had this thing that I would tell myself, I'm no average Joe. I would say that over and over. And now in promoting my book, I'm promoting it as an average Joe. Isn't that crazy how
Interesting.
life just kind of turns it
Interesting.
around? Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your book. Your book is entitled "You Got It, Now Go Get It: Realizing Once and for All Just How High You Can Fly." Um, I got to tell you, man, when we first met, we first of all we were there for a learning experience, a growth experience. We both have grown since that event, and I'm always attracted to individuals in terms of wanting to spend more time with, enjoy, and get to know, and coach and support and mentor and collaborate. That's what we've been like the last 18 months. On social media a lot, you mess around and call me your mentor a number of times, but I got to tell you, it's humbling that you say that, number one. But number two, I literally watch you from a distance. And of course, we both live here in Vegas, but your tenacity, your ability to step into a situation and take chaos and bring some sense of order to it, your ability to take ideas and bring them to life, your consistency, yeah, we can call it hustle, is truly admirable. And I got to tell you, man, I'm glad to have you on the show. Glad to call you a friend. In many ways, I'm jealous. Like I listen to that damn podcast and I'm like, man, God dang it, that Troy, he's putting out this damn content on a consistent basis, and I'm still struggling to get one out a week. tell us, where does this drive, where does this motivation come from? I mean, obviously, talked a little bit about it, but something must have happened. Like what got you so fired up about doing stuff like this?
Yeah, there's a chip on my shoulder. And so I count you and Peter Lynch are two of my mentors. And the way that I equate that, justify it, is that you're doing it, and as an idea guy, it's not a blessing. It's not a blessing or a curse. It is what it is. It's so difficult. And I'm 49 now, I turned 50 in November. Even, we're quarantined and I have this great idea. And the idea is, I talked to my 13-year-old son. I'm like, hey, Luke, let's do an iPhone film festival quarantine. You can only use your iPhone. It has to be a quarantine story, minimum 5 minutes. And you have to record it in your house. And we'll go to sponsors like Apple, and we'll get, grand prize gets a new iPad or new iPhone, whatever. I'm going on this idea. And I even reached out to some influencers on LinkedIn. Hey, I got this idea. And I've had to deal with that my whole life, right? And so I realized that when you only have 2 feet, and when you put 2 feet in 10 different things, nothing happens. So when I look at a mentor like you and Peter Lynch, you're doing it because you turned away good ideas are not the answer, right? It's doing it. And so and I don't believe in doing one thing. I don't believe in that.
You're right.
but just the what I've learned over this last year, is just like, you have to, even if it's a good idea, you have to stop, pause, and say not now, and push it back. So the drive comes from I'll tell this quick story. I graduated from a high school, Henry Opukahia High School, on the Big Island of Hawaii. And the principal in his, small, 8 of us, 8 and 88. And the principal says, as I come up, he's giving his whatever, because it was so small, they give a little speech. Mm-hmm. And his comment was, what I appreciate most about Troy is that he can't do anything well. And he keeps doing it. My uncle, I tell you, in Hawaii, they like to fight. I'm not kidding with that. They fight in Hawaii. My uncle was so upset. He wanted to punch the principal. He was so upset. Wow. I took it as the biggest compliment in the world, So I've been raised with this. I'm a loser that wins, And as I read more self-help books, I'm realizing that's not the approach we need to take. But that foundation of always being, I was never the best talent-wise on the surface. So how do I make the varsity basketball team when I hadn't played basketball? The first time I touched basketball was 10th grade. How do I do that? It's in the hustle. It's in the never give up, the grit. And so that's the reason is, and I'll be transparent with you and everybody else. When people tell me I can't do it, that I have to have that for fuel, and so I've talked to Harry Wilson, is Russell Wilson's brother. And I've had conversations with him on he mentors and coaches elite athletes. And I ask him, what's the fuel? what fuels them? Is it the joy of winning or the hate of losing? And most of them, it's the hate of losing.
Right.
You believe
Right.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's psychology. Psychology, one of my earliest mentors was Anthony Robbins, Tony Robbins. I learned something so clear from him back when early in my 20s. And that is there's two main drivers of our motivation. And that is the desire to gain pleasure or the pain avoidance or the need to avoid pain. And obviously there's more dynamics to that, but in theory, whatever it is about the human psyche, when we have our backs against the wall, he likes to say also that when our shoulds become musts, right? That means when there's no other way we can turn. And unfortunately, that can be damaging. So I get what you're saying. Like, you love to be, you like to prove the naysayers wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we all like to do. But you have you've had a lot of career experience. I mean, when we first met, you were, the head of. It was kind of interesting. We were talking about this software app, and you had been involved with this particular software. I had no idea, and here it is. You were like one of the key players with this particular piece of software. I don't remember the exact role you played, but it was just very interesting how I just heard about it. And you're like, oh yeah, I was on that team. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Tell me when you got started in your personal development, personal growth journey, because obviously we're going to talk a little bit about the book. It's more of a self-help, a self-awareness book, but talk about your personal journey. So you finished high school, and go from there. When did you get really started in it? Because you also did something. Didn't you do something like read a book a day or a book a week, or what was that all about?
100 books in 2019. I read 100 books. Yep.
100 books in 2019.
Yep.
Holy smoke! When did the journey start to continue learning like this?
Ever since I was a kid, I've known what I was going to do, and it's film. I fell in love with some women early on, and got my heart broken.
You said some.
Some, yeah. My wife is number 23.
Oh my gosh!
As far as relationships, right?
Oh wow!
And
I
so
thought I was bad.
Yeah, and so girls took me out from what my destiny was, to be a filmmaker. And so my early 20s, I go to Northwest Bible School to find my wife. And while we're there, my brother goes to a rock and roll concert. I've been singing for a few years, since I was 10. He goes to this concert, hip hop, I believe. He comes back and he goes, "We're starting a band." I was like, "What are you talking about? You never did music. You didn't want to do music." He goes, "I'm doing it now." He wanted that rock and roll lifestyle.
Right.
So in my early 20s, I was in music all the way to my mid 30s, and pursued that heavily. Thought I would have a hit record, sell 1 million copies, keep the money, and then go into film. That didn't work. The band broke up. 3 months later, we got a record label conversation. It was 3 months too late. And so that didn't pan out. And so there's been so many missed opportunities. Now I'm a faith guy, so I'm going to point to the Lord and say he has it in control from the beginning.
Yes.
But I sure get in his way. And,
isn't
the
that
decisions,
interesting how we do that
all the time? The decisions I've made has prevented me from my destiny. So in 2007 or 2008, I'm having a conversation with God, like, when is this going to happen? And really small voice, 9 to 4. That's what I heard. I'm like, 9 to 4. What is 9 to 4? I realized later that's my sleep schedule. So what I was asking, I was like, God, how am I going to get out of it? Where's my breakthrough? Where's my destiny that you promised? And the answer was 9 to 4. It took me another 10 years before I went to that sleep schedule.
Wow.
4 a.m. is easy. It is easy. It's going to bed at 9.
Oh, that's so profound. You're right.
So hard, dude.
You're right. Going to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you go to bed on time, and I, to research the book is written to 4 a.m.ers, grinders, and hustlers. And so I'm doing research on 4 a.m.ers. And the trait is they want to edge over the competition. That is the driving force, right? Otherwise, why? Kobe, Rock, all CEO of Apple, waking up at 4 a.m., that's the primary driver. And so when there are a bunch of naysayers to that, And it's because they're not going to bed in time, before 9. If you're not in bed sleeping before 9, you're not going to get enough rest, and 4 a.m. is going to crush
So
your
how do you,
health. And it's
so,
not.
so I, it's kind of funny you talk about this. It's about going to bed. It's not about the time you wake up. And I, for the longest, said to myself, I couldn't, I typically get up quarter to 6 o'clock, even without an alarm clock. There
That's
were
good.
many years ago, I said, you know what, I'm tired of waking up to an alarm clock. So I said, wouldn't it be nice if I just woke up when I was done sleeping?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm a big uh, student, if you will, of the brain and subconscious thinking, subconscious programming. And so I just told myself, wake up when you're done sleeping, and I'd like to get up in or around 6 o'clock. And I just told myself before I went to sleep. But you just nailed it. The problem was, you can say that until you're blue in the face. Try that when you go to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning consistently, or 12 o'clock consistently. Your body just is going to break down. Right. Out of curiosity, what is your regimen at 4 a.m.? What does someone do? Someone's listening to this right now, and they're like, "Yeah, I'd like to get an edge, Troy." What am I supposed to do at 4 a.m.? Nobody's up. Yep. Some people, they call it 0 dark 30 or whatever the case. It's pitch black outside.
Yeah.
What's your regimen like at 4 a.m.?
Well, I want to answer your first question was good, so I want to answer that. In 2018, I'm still not consistently waking up at 4 a.m. We just finished the startup I was with, that technology company. We just crushed it, man. I mean, 1.6 million in contracts in 18 months with just 2 of us on the sales team. Just really efficient, in marketing and the power of it.
That's
right?
good stuff.
And so just content. I wrote all the content, and my good friend who led that department got moved over to another department, and they moved me out of that role. So long story short, in January of 2018, I was notified that I would not get the bonus that I had earned. So that was roughly $70,000. That was the reason we moved from Seattle to Las Vegas, is because you get a bigger house here, and and that was our down payment of a house that we were looking at buying. And so when that happened, because it was friends, and listen, we're friends today. There's no regret, no ill feeling.
Good.
I was in bed for a weekend, fetal position. My daughter, I remember she remembers that she went and got me Cinnabon from the mall. So you're bad when you have to go get Cinnabon. and
that's the best that rolls around now.
Oh my goodness. And what's interesting, and this is all in the book, what's interesting is that every January, and this was the first year, 2018 was the first year that we brought the family together, and we said, what is your word for the year? What's your word for the year?
Okay.
And mine was release. Because people that have a chip on their shoulder, resilience and grit and perseverance, it's also stubbornness and not willing to let go.
Yeah.
And so the word for me, I thought the Lord was giving me a word of release. I want to grow, and release. And then I was going to sue this company. And as I'm laying in bed in the fetal position, just like plotting my next move, what attorneys, how do I do this? I heard that still small voice, release. And I'm like, oh no. No.
I'm gonna get these sons of guns.
Not this one. This is my money. And people don't want to release because they feel they have ownership of it. And when you release something, it's out of your hands now, right? And I heard the word again, release. And I heard it again, release. And I'm like, I earned it. This is black and white, right? I'm going to pull a note from the Trump book, and they owe me. And you know what? The whether it was my mind or the Lord or whatever, I'm not here to be religious to anyone. The next thing that I heard was, yes, you will win, and it will pale in comparison to the blessing I have for you.
Right. So
at that moment, it was like, okay, do I hold on to this, what's rightfully mine, or do I let it go and let someone bigger than me drive a greater path? So when I released at that moment, I mean, the tears on my bathroom floor, convulsing. It was a removal. And one of the topics in the book is letting go is more than a declaration. It is a physical, almost vomit of like you just release it.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to the answer to your question. I apologize so long. And so 2 months later, we don't have the money. Our dog was 14. And my wife, she's not bitter. She's awesome. She's not bitter at all. And we were tight on money. And the dog was starting to limp and blind and bumping into things. And we ran out of dog food. This is a true story, Darrell. We ran out of dog food. And I had to go get dog food. And I asked the question, what size of bag should I buy? Because I didn't know how long the dog was going to live.
Wow.
And it upset my wife so much. She said, you know what? Put him down already and stop. And she, walked up the stairs. And I wasn't trying to pick a fight, man. I was like, no, I literally don't know what bag to buy. So I stormed out of the house. I was so angry. I went to the Petco in Henderson off of Lake Mead. You know what is next to the pet store? A library.
Oh, yeah.
And I pulled out and I drove by the library. I took a left into the library. I walked in, still just angry, really angry. And I walked by a self-help section, and one of the books was Start, Punch Fear in the Face. And I wanted to fight. And so that punch was a trigger. I grabbed that book. I grabbed 5 more. I walked out. And from then till now, I've read about 180 books. And I'm just consuming it. My fuel is I'm angry for where I'm at and for just getting in the way of what my destiny is. So that was the start of my personal development journey. Gotcha. Was April of 2018. And then I started doing video on LinkedIn, and my life has never been better.
Yeah, you have a great story, by the way. I mean, and it's always those defining moments, right? We talk about it on this show a lot. It's when life knocks us down, or, we find ourselves along a path and things aren't going our way. And we have these breakdown moments, these setback moments. And the question is what is it going to take to get the breakthrough, right? What's going to happen to turn it all around? And a lot of times, we get on our own way, like you said. I mean, we can say, hey, this is what I want. And I'm guilty. I'm 100% guilty. Like, I think about 10 years running this last business and how many things I made excuses for why I didn't do that at that time. You and I know that's actually where we met. I was in a place where I was confronting one of those excuses that I'd made, to be quite frank. Yeah. So, no, it's a good story, man. I mean, so you're now, you've pivoted now. You're in this, you've written this book. Let's dive into why. Why did you decide to write a book? And then second part of that is why self-help? Why personal development?
We were at the Brett McFall training or whatever it was. It changed my life. It literally changed my life. And before I got out of the car, actually I walked out of the car and I walked in and I forgot something, and I saw the people that were there. And I thought, oh no, I've got so much to do. I mean, half of these guys were like dressed in who knows what, right? And I'm thinking, this is a complete waste of my time. 6 hours here. Right. And I went back in my car and I sat down and I thought, you know what? I have nothing to lose. Just get it. Just go and spend that 6 hours. So,
and it's interesting. Let me pause you real quick.
Please.
The other thing about that is it was a free event, if my memory serves me correctly.
That's right.
And we all have done it. We've all signed up for that free thing that was, and whether it was a long commitment of time or a short commitment of time, whether it was a webinar or a live event, and we all have been down the pipe where it is just a bunch of fluff and a bunch of BS. Yeah. Only to get you to buy the thing at the end of the thing. And this wasn't that. So we both have a tremendous amount of respect for this guy because it was 6 hours, right? So let's be clear. It wasn't no 1 hour thing. It wasn't no, here's a 1 hour webinar. It wasn't no crazy 90-minute with Q&A. It was a 6 hour deal. And he taught the entire blueprint. And what I loved about it, I'm gonna bring you back to your story, but what I loved about it, and I think we both appreciated about it and respected, was when the seminar was over, he told you it was over.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, we're going to take a break. And for those of you who want my personal help, you can come back in the room.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the most brilliant things and one of the most integrous things you could do at the end of a free event. So, hey, freebie seekers, you've got your value. I've delivered for 6 hours. Please do not come back in the room if you're not interested in learning how you can work with me further.
Yes.
I thought it was one of the most brilliant closings of a seminar ever. So anyway, back to where you were. Just shout out to Brett if you're listening.
Oh, my gracious, yes.
Shout out to Brett.
Well, and the thing is, when I was there, I had already had a book idea. It was called Pitch Free Closing, Storytelling
That's right.
to the middle six, right?
Yep.
Pitch Free Closing. And so when I was there, what I learned from Brett was the online course model. And so the book idea, I've always had it. I'm a writer anyway. I did all the writing for that tech company. I have 27 movies in my head that will be produced here in this decade. And so I like to do things that are not easy. They're just, I don't have to think a lot. And so I knew a book was in my future. You do public speaking. And it has to have the power of thud. And the power of thud is when you drop it, it thuds. It's not, the ebook that does this, right?
Gotcha.
So I knew that was in my future. And it's like you, I kept pushing it off. My wife, when I get into writing mode, she doesn't like to be around me because it's a level of, I'm in a world that is just, it's different and time goes by.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to write a book. The podcast, I'm my number one listener. So most of what I say is to me. And so I don't know if this is vain or not. I listen to my own podcast.
No, I think it's
as an audience.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is you're releasing it because you need to hear it yourself. And if it benefits the rest of the world, that's also a beautiful thing, right? I did that with quotes on my social media profiles for, 10 years ago. I was, I went bankrupt, foreclosed, divorced, the whole bit. And when I first jumped on social media, I was actually motivating myself with those quotes. If anybody else liked them, congratulations. Little did I know, everybody else was loving those quotes. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. Yeah. So no, I get it. I 100% get it.
Well, and the value of repurposing content.
Most definitely.
So someone today, I released the book covers. There's a voting. They can vote for it. And one of my buddies texted me and he goes, "Man, this is incredible. I'm so happy for you. Will you be doing an audio version of the book?" Yep. And I texted him back and I said, "It's already done. It's the podcast." So the podcast is micro. I'm a big fan of micro content because I'm dyslexic and ADHD, and my attention is, which is another testament to Brett. I paid attention. I mean, he kept my attention the entire time. So I just literally downloaded the audio of the podcast. You can look it up on any podcast, 4 a.m. Daily Wake Up, and transcribed it to text and then converted it from that to reading. And just got off the phone with the editor today. And so she's going to take it another. So I'm on my third rewrite.
Good strategy.
Yeah. And one of the topics in the book is called the accidental author. And what I believe is that when you align yourself with what you're passionate about, and I've done the podcast a year and a half. I have 20 listeners. I don't care if I have one listen. I mean, I honestly, I don't care. I find so much joy in that. When I was really sick, my brother and his wife are mad at me because I still do my podcast. And they said, "You need to rest." And I was like, "You don't understand the fulfillment I get when I do what I do. I don't care about the views." And that's the message of the book. Do what you do and forget about this external score that is causing our country to go into this identity crisis. Before the virus, people are killing themselves because they feel they can't rate. And you've got TikTok videos.
Yeah, they don't have enough social media likes, right? Yeah, it's silly stuff.
Breaks my heart, man. Breaks my heart.
Silly stuff. Well, listen, I first of all, I'm gonna commend you because the consistency it takes to, first of all, just for most people, turning on a microphone and or a camera and getting in front of it is just they'd rather jump out of an airplane or something without a parachute.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of people because people ask me now, since I launched this show, a year ago, which is probably 5-7 years after excuses.
Especially with that voice.
Exactly. And you're the only person who says that, man. So I appreciate that. Maybe I should
They're
have been
too
in radio or
scared.
something.
You're intimidating them.
But it's interesting because people are now asking me, Darrell, how do you start a podcast? How do you start a podcast? How do you start a podcast? And I'm thinking, so my show, I think, I don't know the exact listener count, but, for me, like you, it was a matter of a mission and a legacy, a leaving of a legacy. There's no reason after 30 years in business, I can't share some things with the world. And because of all the people that I've had an opportunity to work with, mentor under, who've coached me, trained me, I've coached, trained in businesses and crossed in this, there's no reason for us not to put this back out in the world where it can live on the interwebs, for free. Anyway, it's just really cool stuff. So who is your target audience for this book? Who should listen to the book?
Yeah. So 4 a.m.ers are, I've grouped together.
And let's come back to your routine at 4 a.m. I almost forgot.
I'll answer that. So I wake up at 4 and I meditate / pray for the first 10 minutes.
Okay.
Oftentimes
in bed or out of bed?
In bed. Yeah.
In bed. Okay.
And it's funny because I'll reach over when I pray for my wife to put my hand on her, and a lot of times it gets slapped away.
She don't want to be bothered at 4 a.m.
No.
Goes, pray at a distance. Pray at a distance. Don't touch me, homie.
That's right. And then God
didn't say lay hands on me.
And then I brush my teeth, and then I do my planner. So I've created a planner called the PPR Daily. It's pray, plan, read. I haven't promoted it or marketed it yet. This is the first year I printed it over at FedEx, and I'm using it for myself.
Plan, read.
Pray, plan, read.
Pray, plan, read. Okay, great.
Every day.
Is that going to be available at some point
for the 2021 year?
Okay.
And it's broken down by quarterly, weekly, daily, where you write out 3 outcomes of the day and so forth. So nice. I do the prayer is that meditation time. I pray better than I meditate. That's a growth opportunity, meditation, because you have to slow down in the breathing and all that. And then I read 3 chapters of the Bible a day. In the New Testament, it gets me through the New Testament in 90 days. So that's part of the PPR.
Gotcha.
And then, so that's done around 4:30. And then at 4:30, I would say 4 weeks ago, I write out my podcast. I have Grammarly check it. Because if I want to use it in a book, I don't want to go through what I went through downloading.
Yeah, because the transcripts come out messy. I can attest to that.
It's messy. Yep. So I write it and then I read it. Most of the time it's in my phone. I pull up the Anchor app and I read it on my phone. It's between 2 and 5 minutes. So that's Monday through Friday. And then so around 5:15 when the gyms are open, I'll usually work out. And so now the gyms are closed, I'm reading the book. So I try to read an hour a day. If you read an hour a day, you'll get through a book a week, easy. And so I read an hour a day. And then by the time the kids are waking up and the dust is settled, I've got so much accomplished. And people, multitasking, it's interesting, works and it doesn't work. It works if you multitask the day. It does not work if you multitask at the same time. So you have to block out what you're working on, and you can have multiple tasks throughout the day. You cannot do multiple tasks at the same time. The science has shown this.
Proven.
So those that watch Netflix and send an email, you're compromising your email.
Yeah.
So that's the start of my day. And it's Monday through, it's every day of the week. Wake up at 4 and just kind of.
So you're still up at 4 on the weekends, days off, that kind of stuff?
That's right. So if I go to bed after 10 p.m., it's the 4 a.m. hour. And that's when I'm like you. I won't set an alarm. And I'll usually wake up, between 4:30 and 4:50 or whatnot.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's
your body
the morning routine.
Yeah, your body has a routine now. It's actually funny, kind of what I was talking about earlier. So I finally decided, I didn't decide on my own, but when my youngest daughter got to high school, she's going to a performing arts school, and it's across town, so she has to be bused, and her bus she has to be at the bus stop at 5:45. So that obviously required me to wake up earlier. And so all the years I used to say, I can't wake up before 5:45. Well, yeah, you got to, if you're going to be a good parent. So, and so, yeah, all of a sudden I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and eventually, now of course that change required a little bit of alarm but then eventually my body got used to it to the
Absolutely.
point now that if I want to sleep into 6:30, even
It's
on the
hard.
weekends,
Yeah.
my body's like, hey, it's 5 o'clock, homie.
Yeah. And here's the thing is there's a sacrifice. You offend people by waking up at 4 a.m. because social gatherings are in the evening. My wife will often go hang out with friends at 7:30. She'll leave the house and I'm here. And so people get offended by that. And it took me a while to just understand my why I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing this and what my purpose is. And I get teased like, oh, grandpa going to bed. And I'll say, I'll tell you what, I'll text you when I wake up.
Yeah.
And then the teasing stops from there. But there
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
sacrifice. So if you want to edge, if you want to sacrifice,
Yeah.
then these are the things that you need to do.
Yeah. Getting, and it's interesting because I think there's a societal paradigm and everyone can run their own race. I always say this all the time. Everybody should run their own race. Stop trying to tell someone how to run their race.
That's right.
And, I've done this for years now as an entrepreneur. I mean, early in my 20s, I started pushing against the grain and, friends are going out, hanging out at clubs Friday. I'm working, I'm getting my work on, I'm managing $1 million restaurant, a fast food restaurant. And, Friday night, Darrell, hey, you coming to the thing? No, I'm not coming to the thing. I closed the store that night. D, when are you going to get a weekend off? I'm not asking for a weekend off. If they give me one, I'll join you. I'm getting my grind on. So no, you just got to you got to run your race. So, so back to your book,
the audience,
idea. Yeah. Who's going to benefit the most from picking this thing up?
Great question. So the 4 a.m.ers are one of the groups, and then hustlers and grinders. So the way I define a grinder is a freelance person. Freelancers, they don't want a job. They don't want the 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. And you've got, is it Upwork? You've got many platforms now that offer grinders freelancers the ability to go do their business. It's different from a side hustle because it is their primary business. So the grinders, so the 4 a.m.ers are one persona. The grinders are another persona. Then the third persona is the hustlers. And those are guys like me where I have 4 kids. I have a wife. She wants a house. A down payment needs to be made, and the bank likes an employee W-2 position. So strategically, you have a job, and you have a side hustle, and that side hustle could be your book. It could be it could be driving Uber. It could be whatever. Yeah. And here's the thing about these groups of people. So 4 a.m.ers, grinders, hustlers, and those that want to be. Took that from Brett.
I love
those that want to be, and so a lot of these we're lonely, right? We're lonely people. We're driven differently than others. We can't settle for just coming home after a long day of work, pop open a beer, watch some programs. We're not wired that way. And the research in my book proposal, there are millions of people that are hustlers and grinders. What's interesting is freelance is more Gen Z, right? And side hustlers are more millennials. So I believe that's right. Gen Z have no desire, and that's 18 to 22 in the working force is Gen Z. They have no desire to work 8 hours a day for 20 years and retire 401k, zero. And because they've been raised with technology. So those are the primary, and then those that want to be. And the encouragement in the book is that when they're going through what I know I've gone through, they can pick up the book and they can start at the end, they can start in the middle, they can start at the beginning. It is not a book from cover to cover read. It is 260 individual topics under the sections of self-mastery, leadership, personal branding. If you're a grinder or a hustler and you're not doing a personal brand, you are severely hurting your opportunity to grow your business. And then how you engage your audience.
Yeah, you're also, so first of all, a couple comments. I love the fact that the book can be read any chapter. You can just open up, find your need, and go get that help that day, which I love. How long are chapters typically? 3, 4 pages, 5 pages?
Each chapter has 5 topics. So it's broken down like a year, 52 chapters, and then 5 topics in each chapter. So that's your
consumable,
year.
Right? But 260
Yes.
pages, easy. Yeah, so good stuff.
Yes.
And then, so someone can pick it up and kind of dive in. They don't have to read it cover to cover. So that's kind of really
That's right.
cool. It's funny. There's a lot more of those books coming out these days versus
That's right.
books that I used to read. And
That's right.
I personally, I don't want to say I'm ADD, but I like concept books. Like I like
Mhm.
books where I can go in and grab a concept. And the problem is most books that are 300-400 pages long
Right.
have no business being one page over 84 pages, right? So I love these books that, where you can actually go in and pick some things out, because that's just how I like to learn.
Right.
But and so the book, what are the people going to get out of the book? Like if I picked up the book
Yeah.
or someone picked up the book, what are they going to get out of it?
It depends on where you're at in your, so I call it the perfection spectrum, right? And what I believe about this particular philosophy or theory, or however you want to call it, is I learned at a karaoke bar, or I'm from Hawaii, I'll say karaoke bar. And I'm at a karaoke bar, and I've never done it before. And I'm a good singer if I'm in the right key, right?
Okay.
I can grind with the Eddie Vedders of the world. And so these guys are drunk, they're off pitch, they're singing awful. It's awful. And I'm watching these people, watching them clapping and cheering. So I get up there, get a Hootie and the Blowfish song, right, in my range, and crush it, Darrell. I mean, just like, I bring it, let her cry. And the applause was probably 25% compared to the drunk dude that was off pitch. And so I started thinking about that, because I'm an audience engagement expert. I watch audiences all the time. What are they finding valuable? The book cover voting contest that we have, the one that's leading, I don't really like. I mean, it's not my favorite, and it's leading by like tremendous amount. So I like the audience to help, what they find valuable. And so I realized that people, when I started singing, they knew I was a singer. By the way I held the mic, by the way my body language was. They knew, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, you just crashed a party, man.
Right. Elevated you.
It elevated me, and that's not what I wanted.
Held you to a higher level. Yeah, held
Exactly.
you to a higher level of standard, right?
Exactly. So in the perfection spectrum is when you go from doing to being. Like you and I may golf. I'm not a golfer. You may sing. Maybe you're not a singer. And a lot of it's the mindset shift. So whatever it is that you do, and that could be your hobby or your side hustle or your vocation, your job, whatever it is that you do, you're in that spectrum, right? And in wherever you're at in that spectrum, this is why I coach basketball. You've got guys that are really good, and you got kids that are just in their first year. You can't, that kid in the first year can't judge themselves to the one that's been playing for 5 years. It's not fair. It's impossible. So in that spectrum, wherever you fall, you're perfect because you're in the spectrum. You're not doing, you're being. And so this idea of people in the spectrum ahead of you are either joy suckers or encouragers. And the joy suckers are going to say, you don't belong here. You don't belong in this spectrum. And they criticize you because you're not good enough where you're at in this, whatever spectrum it is. It could be guitar playing, whatever it is. The other person is the encourager, and they're saying the exact same thing to you. You're not good enough. Come on, keep growing, keep growing. So for people that don't know what that one thing is, I challenge them, they probably do. They just haven't unplugged long enough to find out what gives them joy. And once they find out what gives them joy, how do I align my activities with what gives me joy? And I'm not talking about my mistress gives me joy, I'm going to leave my wife. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about activities, because the science and data shows when you win, it boosts your morale. You feel fulfilled. There's a fulfillment there. What does waking up at 4 a.m. do? That's a win. You beat the sun. What does eating the right nutrition do? You're beating your body into submission. You're winning. What does taking a cold shower do? You're winning. And all of these things are winning that I control. I need to close 3 deals today. If I don't close 3 deals, did I lose? No, because I don't control who buys. I can control my activity. I can't control that they buy. If I'm a student in school, I can't control the teacher giving me an A. I can't. So what can I control? Those are wins. And when you stack these small wins on top of each other, you're going to win the things you can't control. I firmly believe that.
That's beautiful. Well said. Well said. When does the book come out?
We're at the 6-week mark. So this week was the 6th week. So within 6 weeks, it'll be launched. The cover
about 6 weeks from now.
About 6 weeks from now. Yep. Self-published. And it'll be a lot of fun.
Nice. Well, so we'll say July 2020 should be out. If you're listening to this past July 2020, you should be able to find it probably on Amazon and all the other cool book places on the interweb. So listen, as we get to wrap up, man, I really appreciate again you taking some time out to come share your story, share your life, and listen. You never knew this, and of course, the longer we get to know each other, the more. I didn't even know you were from Hawaii. Maui is one of my favorite places. I've been to the Big Island one time. I was dead broke, busted, and disgusted when I was there that one time. So I need to go back and enjoy it because this was in my mid to late 20s, and I was there for a business event, and I literally the company paid for all of the reasons for you to be there. And I couldn't do much else at that point because I was working through some things. We'll say that. But listen, I always ask people this, and I know you're a faith-filled guy. So if today happened to be your last day on this earth, what would you want people to remember you for?
Well, I would stop this podcast and go write out 27 treatments before I die for my movies and give to my son. I think that what I would like people to understand is that when you're not qualified to do great things, it's not an excuse. You need to do great things. And it is, I think Albert Einstein is credited with this quote, even though he may not have. But everyone has a genius in them. Yet if a fish spends his life trying to climb a tree, he'll believe he's stupid. And so what I want people to understand is that about my life is that I did what I did because it was how I was created and wired. And I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to tell stories, and the accolades are a result of my purpose, not my purpose.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Man, I'm glad you had time to stop by. Glad we had a chance to meet. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. So wrap.
Hang on. So Troy, good having you on the show, man. Thanks for the opportunity of our friendship. And where can people connect with you online?
The easiest way would just be troyritchie.com. Ritchie is RITCHIE. Or they can send me an email, me@troyritchie.com if they want to get a hold of me.
Nice. Thanks again for being on the show, my man.
Hey, my pleasure.
Hey, thank you for listening to the MindShift podcast today. Listen, don't be a stranger. Reach out, connect with me on social media. Let me know what you're thinking about the show, what you think about these episodes. You can find me pretty much at Mr. Darrell Evans almost everywhere on social media. I look forward to chatting with you then. Bye for now.